I'm really excited for this episode of Talks with Teads in beautiful and sunny Cannes. I'm joined here by James Colborn, who I'm so excited to chat with today. So James, you first want to tell everyone a little bit about you and your role?
Sure. I'm the Global VP of Data. I work as part of the DICE team that we have, so Data Insights Creative Excellence team. And my job is to work with our largest strategic advertisers, being able to think about how to be able to apply data, to be able to evangelize a lot of our data solutions with the whole of Teads, to be able to make sure that we do the best job we can with data assets to be able to drive business. And then in turn, I work very closely with our product and innovation team to be able to say, this is what the market's saying, this is the opportunities that are presenting themselves at events like Cannes. So it's just lovely to be that sort of go-between between both the teams that build the products and the teams that sell the products, and sort of it's just a lovely job.
Right. Very important job as well. So James, from your point of view, there's a ton of talk about the consumer journey, the way that we reach consumers. It seems to be a big topic of discussion at Cannes this year. In your personal opinion, what's one of the biggest Cannes trends to watch, or one that's kind of piquing your interest?
It's a great sort of Cannes because 2 years ago we were here and everyone was talking about AI, but there wasn't a huge amount of substance. Last year, the conversation was really focused on creative and the use of generative AI to be able to enhance creatives, which is still here today. And I think that since then, our colleagues in the DICE team, as amongst other groups, have built some wonderful examples of using sort of artificial intelligence to build really nice creators. What we're seeing this year is an evolution of the use of generative AI to be able to talk about the other aspects of activating a campaign, which sort of involves the planning phases, the activation, and then the measurement. Is agentic AI and its ability to be able to allow someone to use a prompt, to be able to understand more about consumers, to understand the consumer journey, their path and the information, to really use that from an insights point of view, then to be able to figure out the right activation paths across the right media types. But what I've also loved through that, because I love the whole sort of insights and research piece, activation is once you've got that right. But at the same time, I think that I'm hearing a lot from measurement companies as well who are saying, we want to be able to pass signals in real time into these engines to be able to enhance and optimize. So you think real-time optimization or in-flight optimization. Often campaigns today will run for 90 days and someone will say, how did that do? You're like, did all right. Should we do it again? Imagine a dynamic where if sales are working well or the brand lift is working well or attention, whatever the unit of measurement, that information is being fed in and the algorithm is figuring out, have I got the right combination of assets to be able to make sure that I can maximize the outcome of this campaign? And that is a conversation that is appearing everywhere through data vendors, through measurement providers, through the agencies as well, who are talking a lot about this as they think about how they evolve their platforms. And so I think it's just going to be really interesting to see how AI evolves.
I couldn't agree more. And it sounds like this year people are really beginning to talk about AI as a complete reinvention of the traditional limits of advertising. Like you said, planning, strategy, addressability, measurement, all of these things are rapidly changing at the same pace that the consumer experience is really changing due to AI. With all of that in mind, how do you think about creating a more fluid, connected, better consumer experience from a marketing and advertising perspective from discovery to purchase?
I think ultimately, many of the process, AI will enhance sort of the process today. It might even reinvent it in areas that we don't know, but there's a traditional flow as to how people think. I plan by using old-fashioned marketing techniques of segmenting a market, finding the right target audience, and then positioning a product. I then figure out how to activate that campaign, then I figure out how to measure it. And so I think that that process in itself has been enhanced over the years through technology. But there's always a labored process in terms of doing it. There is work that needs to be done to be able to generate insights, then be able to make qualified choices in terms of, have I segmented this audience correctly? Have I created the right persona or profile? Then you get into the activation. Have I created the right targeting, using the right segments, using the right channels? Then you get into the creative side, which is definitely one of those areas which is fascinating because creative has in the past, dynamic creative optimization was a wonderful example of this, where things were changed on the fly. But they were very predefined in terms of my ad showing up in a certain neighborhood. So say that the local McDonald's is 3 miles down the road. It didn't change necessarily too much more in that sort of dynamic. So AI can enhance that experience. And then with the measurement in real time. So I think that because there's that labored process, it follows a particularly defined path. But the question being is that if the if the consumer in Germany is changing and it is all over the place, you can't keep up that quickly by doing that process in that labored sort of environment. Even if you sped it up, you still couldn't react fast enough to be able to do so. So I think the outcomes that people are looking for will be dramatically enhanced, hopefully over time, by the fact that all of the variables are being crunched in real time using algorithms and computer and all sorts of, makes me feel ancient, computer, algorithms and some form of sort of like technology that will make the outcomes better. And I think that for me is fascinating to be able to see where that goes. And so it's going to come down to being really good at asking the systems to do things rather than necessarily having the manual process of choosing it yourself.
Absolutely. And constantly questioning whether we have the right tools, the right point of view, even about who the consumer is and what they're interested in. I think so many of the points you raised really indicate that there's an opportunity to use AI to better understand the human element of how people interact with media and engage and what they're ready for.
Definitely.
So with that in mind, I know that you're doing a lot of work on the One Audience product offering, as you're sort of calling it. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So we're launching here in Cannes the concept of one audience everywhere. And it really is a scenario where when you think about that process, which we hope in time will be exponentially faster, one of the challenges you have right now is that if you go to different media types, oftentimes the targeting variables are different. I can use this targeting on this medium, which might be CTV. I can use this kind of targeting, which is different on open web. This creates complexity and friction. The other challenge you also find is that you are in a position where in order to be able to advertise over here on this medium, I need to use this platform and they use this kind of data. Over here, I have to use this platform. They use that kind of data. That varies by market. It varies around the globe. And so what we've done is to create the idea of saying, okay, one taxonomy that works on all of the different screens that we operate within, that allows someone to be able to say, if I want to be able to operate a true omni-channel campaign against a single audience across multiple screens, whether it's home screen, whether it's CTV in-screen, whether it's outstream, that is an option which is available. It just speeds up the process and removes the friction. And it also means that Teads Ad Manager becomes a centralized point for people to be able to buy multiple media types, rather than having to go to separate platforms to be able to buy separately on each of these areas, which means that it almost is paramount importance to be able to have that single audience. And so that's what we're talking about today. We've launched with demographics and interests. We want to roll that out throughout the rest of this year to every kind of targeting solution we have, and then bring in other solutions as well. You know, just the sheer fragmentation of platforms where people have to be able to buy is causing endless friction in terms of how people are buying. To bring that into one place, one single audience across everywhere, is what we want to be able to talk about.
Couldn't agree more. And it really reflects the way that consumers consume media and engage with it today. They want that consistent experience and to have that really unified brand message that also clearly understands where they are in the life cycle. So that's amazing to hear. James, any other trends or key pieces of advice that you think everyone needs to be focused on in the second half of 2025 and in 2026?
I think more than anything else, it is patience with where things get developed and not ignoring what's available today. I think that there was, when we saw it with the creative side, you know, there was a rush to be able to say, right, this is the future, this is what we can do now. And we saw sort of trial and error. And I think that at the end of the day, a lot of these solutions will take time to develop. And so it's really being able to enhance what we can do today and then understand from what we do today to be able to take it forward. So one of the things we've been talking about this week, as an example, is something that we hope in the future, and maybe the very near future, that generative AI will be able to work with. And that is, we're calling it Insights Enhanced Creatives. And so the concept being is one of those audiences that we talked about. We understand that particular audience. But not only that, we take something, and the example we've been using, for example, is somebody who is interested in, let's say they're interested in buying a product. Mm-hmm. We can create an interesting audience around somebody who wants to buy that product using third-party data sources or our own. Great. That's a lovely thing to be able to do. But we can also then generate insights against that particular audience that tell us additional things that they like. These are their hobbies. These are their passions. This is what they read about. These are the type of technology they use. And by taking the over-indexing elements of that, if, for example, you took somebody who was interested in potentially buying a car, you'd say, I want to be able to find someone who's in market for a car. But if we found that audience as someone who's in market for a car right now and found that they also loved being able to read, you know, they were really into gaming, they loved travel, it meant that now we pass it on to the creative side of our team who can say, okay, well, let's enhance and optimize the creative to represent that. And this is just an example of something we're doing today, which we can then see potentially enhanced through the generative AI processes as well. So I think that, everything that we do today will influence how things get developed in the future. And I don't think that it will reinvent the wheel. If it does, it'd be wonderful. Maybe new ways of doing things that we don't know. But one of the things that I think people talk about with AI is the fact it will make experiences better, faster, more efficient. That still needs you have to have the right process down today. And so focus on today to be able to influence tomorrow.
That's an amazing insight to leave us with. And I think one that is definitely going to continue to develop in 2026 for sure. So James, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Talks with Teads.